Hi everyone, my name is Natalie Brooke Ellis. I'm 34 years old. My parents demanded I skip the most important job interview of my life to watch my sister's kids, and by the time my plane landed in Chicago, I had 57 missed calls and a voicemail from my mother saying, "If your sister loses it today, that's on you." I was still holding my boarding pass when that message played. Gate B12. 6:48 in the morning. My coffee was cold because I'd been too nervous to drink it. My black blazer had a tiny thread coming loose at the cuff, and I remember pinching it between my fingers like if I could control that one thread, maybe I could control the rest of my life too. For 8 months, my husband Mark and I had been living on one paycheck. Mine, not a good paycheck. Not a stable one. A paycheck from a billing coordinator job at a dental supply company where my manager called unpaid overtime being a team player, and once told me, "You're lucky to still have a chair." Mark had been laid off from his construction project job after his company lost 2 contracts. He was applying everywhere, doing delivery shifts at night when his back allowed it, and pretending not to panic every time the rent portal sent another reminder. So when Horizon Medical Systems called me for a final interview in Chicago, with a salary almost double what I was making, and real health insurance, I cried in my car before I even told Mark. This wasn't a career move. It was oxygen. My interview was at 1 o'clock. They'd paid for the flight. I'd spent 3 nights rehearsing answers in our bathroom, because it was the only room where I could close the door. Mark had ironed my blouse while watching YouTube videos about how to sound confident in panel interviews. He kissed my forehead at 4:30 that morning and said, "Go get our life back." Then my mother texted, not, "Good luck." Not, "We're proud of you." At 5:12 a.m., while I was in the security line, holding my shoes and laptop, my phone lit up. "Mom, your sister can't handle it today. You're in charge of the kids." I stared at it so long the TSA agent said, "Ma'am?" I moved forward barefoot, feeling the cold floor through my socks. Then another text. "Mom, Lila has a migraine, and the twins have dentist appointments. You need to go to her house by 8. My sister, Lila Morgan, is 37. Her twins, Aiden and Ava, are 7, and her youngest, Milo, is 4. I love those kids. I have changed diapers, packed lunches, sat through school assemblies, picked glitter glue out of my hair, and once slept upright in a chair beside Ava during pneumonia, because Lila couldn't do hospitals. But Lila has never been the person my parents call when something needs doing. Lila is the person everyone rescues. I am the person who arrives with spare keys, snacks, a thermometer, and no right to be tired. I typed, "I'm at the airport. My interview is today." 3 dots appeared immediately, then vanished. Then my father texted separately, "Dad, put family first. Natalie." That was it. 4 words that had been used on me since I was old enough to carry a folding chair at church picnics. Put family first meant cancel your plans. Put family first meant lend money and don't ask when it's coming back. Put family first meant Lila is fragile and you are practical, so don't make this harder. I called my mother because I still had that stupid reflex. The one where even after years of being dismissed, a daughter thinks if she explains clearly enough, her mother will understand. She answered on the second ring, already angry. "Natalie, where are you?" "At the airport," I said. "Mom, I told everyone about this interview. It's today. I sent it in the group chat last week." "Well, Lila didn't know she'd wake up like this. What happened?" "She has a migraine." I closed my eyes. "Is she going to urgent care?" "No, she's resting. Then Dad can take the kids. Your father has his back. My flight board's in 30 minutes. There was a pause. Not concern. Calculation. Then Mom said, lower, "Do not embarrass me by making me beg." That sentence hit harder than if she'd yelled, because my mother, Denise Hargrove, never begged. She assigned guilt like she was handing out plates at Thanksgiving. I looked down at my boarding pass. Natalie Ellis, seat 18A, Chicago. A printed little proof that for once, I had somewhere to be that wasn't someone else's emergency. Mom, I said, Mark and I need this. We're behind on utilities. We're using my credit card for groceries. If I get this job, you always make everything about money. I actually laughed once, quietly. It sounded ugly. Because rent is money. Your sister is alone with 3 children. She's not alone. She has a mother. She has a father. She has an ex-husband who gets them every other weekend. She has neighbors. She has money for Pilates twice a week. Natalie. There it was. My name as a warning. Then she said the line that made my hand go cold around the phone. Lila said you probably wouldn't help because you've gotten very self-important lately. I stood there in the airport with business travelers rolling past me, families wrangling strollers, a man in a navy suit eating a breakfast sandwich with one hand, and I felt 12 years old again. 12, standing in our kitchen, while Lila sobbed because she'd forgotten her science fair board, and my mother turned to me and said, "Give her yours. You're better at making another one." 17, staying home from senior prom pictures because Lila had gotten dumped and couldn't be alone. 26, using my emergency savings to cover Lila's car payment because Mom said, "You don't have kids, so you don't understand real pressure." And now 34, about to board a plane for the interview that could keep my marriage from cracking under bills, being told that needing my own future was self-important. I said, very carefully, "I am getting on this flight." My mother went silent. Then my father's voice came on. She must have put me on speaker. "Natalie," he said, in that heavy, disappointed tone he used when he wanted to sound like a judge, "your mother is upset. I'm upset too. You're choosing a job interview over your nieces and nephew." "No, I'm choosing not to miss a job interview because Lila has a migraine." "You know how she gets?" "Yes," I said, "I do." That was the problem. I knew exactly how Lila got. I knew how her voice softened when she asked for something, and hardened when she didn't get it. I knew how she called my parents before calling me, so by the time my phone rang, I wasn't being asked a favor. I was being handed an obligation wrapped in disappointment. I knew how every crisis in Lila's life somehow ended with me rearranging mine. The boarding announcement crackled overhead. Flight 216 to Chicago O'Hare now boarding Group 3. My group. My father heard it. "You're really going to walk onto that plane while your family needs you?" I looked at the gate doors, at the agent scanning passes, at the line moving forward, and suddenly, I thought of Mark at our tiny kitchen table 2 nights earlier, sorting bills into piles with a red pen. Rent. Electric. Car insurance. Credit card minimums. The kind of math that makes 2 grown people whisper. I thought of him saying, "Nat, if they try something, don't answer." And I had said, "They won't." Because even then, some foolish part of me wanted to believe my parents wouldn't try to ruin this. I said, "I love the kids, but I am not missing this." My mother grabbed the phone back. "If you get on that plane, don't expect everyone to pretend this didn't happen." That was supposed to scare me. For most of my life, it would have, because in my family, punishment didn't always look like screaming. Sometimes it looked like being left out of photos. Like everyone suddenly forgetting to invite you until the last minute. Like my mother saying at Christmas, "Oh, we thought you were busy," while my stocking hung there flat and empty. I swallowed. Then I said, "Okay, just one word." My mother inhaled sharply, like I had slapped her. I hung up before she could answer. My hand was shaking so badly, I almost dropped my phone in the gray airport carpet. 3 more texts arrived instantly. "Mom, you are making a mistake." "Dad, this is selfish." "Lila, wow. Good to know where we stand." That one almost did it. Not because it was fair, because it was familiar. Lila knew exactly how to make herself sound abandoned while standing in a house my parents helped her buy. With 3 kids they regularly watched, groceries they often paid for, and a younger sister she could summon like roadside assistance. I opened her message. My thumb hovered. I wanted to type, "Where we stand. I have been standing under you for years." Instead, I locked the screen. Then another message came through from Mark. Mark, board the plane. I'm proud of you. I stared at those words until they blurred. Then I shut my phone off. Not silent. Not do not disturb. Off. The screen went black in my palm, and for the first time all morning, the world got quiet. I walked to the gate. The agent scanned my boarding pass and said, "Have a good flight." I almost laughed, because it felt like the smallest blessing anyone had given me that day. On the plane, I took seat 18A by the window. A woman beside me was already asleep with a paperback open on her lap. The engines hummed. Rain streaked the glass. I pressed my forehead lightly against the window and tried not to think about my mother turning my absence into a crime scene. But I knew my family. I knew they would not simply handle the morning. They would narrate it. By the time I landed, I expected anger. I expected guilt. I expected maybe 10 missed calls. I did not expect 57. I did not expect 3 voicemails from my mother, 2 from my father, 9 from Lila, and 1 from an unknown number that turned out to be Lila's neighbor. And I definitely did not expect the first text that loaded when my phone came back to life at O'Hare. It was from my mother. "Mom, your sister is gone. The kids are crying. This is your fault." For a second, I thought the word gone meant dead. My whole body went cold, right there in the aisle, while people behind me were pulling bags from overhead bins and muttering about connections. I gripped the seat in front of me and read it again. "Mom, your sister is gone. The kids are crying. This is your fault. Gone. Not in the hospital. Not passed out. Not we can't wake her. Gone." My first instinct was to call. That scared me more than the text did. Because even after everything, even after shutting my phone off like it was a declaration of independence, my thumbs still moved toward my mother's name. Then I remembered where I was. Chicago. Interview. 1 o'clock. My second chance. I stepped off the plane into the jet bridge, turned my phone face down against my palm, and forced myself to breathe. When guilt didn't reach me directly, they routed it through my marriage. What actually happened? Mark paused. "From what I can piece together, your mom told Lila you refused to come." Lila got hysterical. "She called your parents. They didn't want to drive over because your dad's back hurts and your mom had a hair appointment." I let out a sound that was half laugh, half disbelief. "My career can burn," I said, "but God forbid Mom miss highlights." "Yeah." Then Lila apparently told the kids to get dressed, but she was crying, and Ava started crying. "Lila called your mom again and said she couldn't do this. Your mom told her she had to wait until they got there. And Lila left before they arrived." I stared at a departure board until the letters blurred. "She left the kids alone?" "According to your mom, Aiden called her from Lila's phone. He said Mommy went outside and drove away." Aiden was 7 years old, calling his grandmother because his mother had walked out. My stomach twisted. "Are they okay?" "They're scared, but they're physically okay. Neighbor saw them on the porch and stayed until your parents came." The unknown number. The neighbor. I touched the screen and saw her voicemail sitting there like a small bomb. Mark said, softer, "Nat, listen to me. This is not your fault." I didn't answer, because a terrible, ugly part of me whispered, "But if you'd gone, the kids wouldn't have been alone." That was the hook my family had planted in me years ago. No matter how unreasonable the demand, no matter how badly someone else behaved, if I could have prevented pain by sacrificing myself, then somehow I was responsible. Mark knew that hook. He'd watched me bleed from it. "Natalie," he said. "Say it." I swallowed. "It's not my fault." Again. "It's not my fault." "Good. Now where are you?" "O'Hare." "What time is the interview?" 1. "Then you get in a cab. You go to the hotel lobby, change your shoes, fix your hair, and you walk into that interview like your life depends on it. Because it kind of does." I looked around at the busy terminal. Everyone moving somewhere. Everyone with a purpose. "My sister abandoned her kids." "Yes. Mark said. Your sister abandoned her kids. Not you. The words landed heavily. For years, Lila's problems had been spoken about as if they were weather. Uncontrollable. Unavoidable. Something the rest of us just had to prepare for. Lila is overwhelmed. Lila is sensitive. Lila doesn't cope like you. Nobody ever said the simple thing. Lila chooses. She chose to leave. Not me. I listened to the neighbor's voicemail before leaving the airport. Her name was Mrs. Alvarez, and her voice shook with fury. Hi, this is Carla Alvarez from next door to Lila. I don't know what is going on in your family, but Aiden and Ava came outside crying with Milo, and Aiden said his mom left. I sat with them. Your parents are here now. I just want someone responsible to know that those babies were alone. I'm keeping note of the time. Someone responsible. That hurt more than the insults. I saved the voicemail. Then I called my mother. She answered with a sob already loaded. Natalie, I hope that interview is worth it. Are the kids safe? Silence. Maybe she expected me to defend myself first. I repeated, Are the kids safe? They're with us, she snapped, no thanks to you. Where is Lila? We don't know. Did you call the police? Don't be dramatic. She left 3 children alone. She was upset. Did you call the police? My mother's voice dropped. We are not involving police in family business. There it was again. Family business. The magical phrase that meant secrets mattered more than safety. Mom, I said, keeping my voice low because people were passing by with luggage and coffee cups. A 7-year-old had to call for help because his mother left him with 2 younger children. That is not family business. That is neglect. She gasped. How dare you use that word about your sister? What word would you prefer? She had a breakdown because you refused to help. No, I said, she left because she chose to leave. She was counting on you. I never agreed to watch them. You assigned me while I was already at the airport. You could have come back. I could not. You chose not to. Yes, I said. I chose not to throw away an interview that could keep my household afloat because Lila had a migraine. My mother made a noise like she couldn't believe I was still talking. Then my father got on. Enough, he said. You need to come home. I almost laughed. I just landed in Chicago. Then get on another plane. No. Natalie. No. The word came out steadier than I felt. You are turning your back on this family, he said. No, Dad. I'm refusing to be the emergency exit for everyone else's bad decisions. He went quiet. I had never spoken to him like that before. My heart pounded so hard it felt visible. Finally, he said, If you continue down this road, don't expect help from us. Help? I thought of every Thanksgiving I cooked while Mom sat with Lila. Every school pickup I made. Every bill I covered and was told not to mention. Every birthday gift I bought from Grandma and Grandpa because they forgot. What help? I asked. That silence was different. Not shocked. Exposed. I said, I'm going to my interview. Text me when you find Lila. If the kids are unsafe, call emergency services. Then I hung up. My hands were trembling again, but this time it wasn't fear exactly. It was like a locked room inside me had cracked open, and air was getting in too fast. I took a taxi downtown. Chicago slid past the window in steel and glass, the sky low and gray over buildings that looked too solid to care about one family's chaos. I changed into heels in a hotel restroom near the interview site. I reapplied concealer under eyes that had seen too much before 10 a.m. I practiced smiling in the mirror. You are qualified, I whispered. My phone buzzed. Lila, I hope you're happy. I just needed one person to care. I stared at it. Then another. Lila, don't worry. I'm alive. Since I'm sure you asked. My throat tightened. I typed, Where are you? She replied instantly. Lila, wouldn't you like to know? Then, Lila, go enjoy your big important life. I did not respond. At 12:42, I walked into Horizon Medical Systems with my resume folder in one hand and my phone on silent in my bag. The receptionist smiled. The office smelled like coffee, printer paper, and possibility. For 90 minutes, I became someone else. Or maybe I became myself. I answered questions about compliance reporting, vendor accounts, workflow problems, insurance reconciliation. I gave examples. I made them laugh once. When they asked about handling pressure, I nearly choked on the irony, then said, I prioritize facts over panic. The hiring director, a woman named Elaine Porter with silver-framed glasses, leaned forward. That's a good answer, she said. Can you give me an example? I smiled politely. I've had a lot of practice. By the time I left, my body felt hollowed out. I stepped onto the sidewalk and turned my phone over. More missed calls. More texts. But one message sat at the top, from Mark. Mark, your mom is at our apartment. She says she's not leaving until you come home. I stopped walking. Then the next message appeared. Mark, she has a key. I didn't give it to her. Did you? I stared at Mark's text until the letters stopped looking like words. She has a key. My mother had a key to our apartment. Not a metaphorical key. Not emotional access. A real piece of metal that opened the door to the one place Mark and I had left where my family wasn't supposed to be able to walk in and rearrange the air. My thumb moved fast. Me? I never gave her one. Mark replied immediately. Mark. Then she copied yours somehow. My stomach dropped. 2 months earlier, I'd gone to my parents' house after work to help my father set up his new insurance portal. I remembered taking off my coat, dropping my keys in the little ceramic bowl by their entryway, the one shaped like a lemon because my mother loved Tuscan accents. I'd been in the office with Dad for almost an hour while Mom made coffee. That was when she did it. I knew it in my bones. I called Mark. He answered in a whisper. Where are you? I asked. In the bedroom. Why are you whispering? Because your mother is in our living room holding court like she pays rent here. My vision tunneled. Who's with her? Your dad. And Lila. I stopped dead on the sidewalk. Lila is there? Yep. She left her kids, disappeared for hours, and now she's at my apartment? Apparently. Chicago traffic roared beside me. A bus sighed at the curb. People walked around me like I was a lamppost. What are they doing? Your mom is saying you've been radicalized by me. Your dad keeps asking where we keep important documents. Lila is crying on our couch. I gripped my purse strap. Why would he ask about documents? I don't know, Nat, but I don't like it. Neither did I. My parents had never respected boundaries, but this felt different. Crossing into our apartment while I was out of state wasn't just guilt. It was control with shoes on. Call the police, I said. Mark went quiet. You sure? That question hurt, but I understood why he asked. Because calling the police on my parents was a line I had never crossed. My family had trained me to believe that outside help was betrayal, that appearances mattered more than truth, that we handled things privately, which usually meant I absorbed the damage quietly. I looked at the reflection of myself in the glass of the office building. Blazer, heels, resume folder, face pale with exhaustion. Yes, I said. They entered without permission. They have a key they shouldn't have. Call. Behind Mark, I heard my mother's voice rise. Is that her? Put her on speaker. No, Mark said, voice suddenly normal. I'm calling the police. Then chaos. My mother shouted, Excuse me? Lila cried, Oh my God, Mark, seriously? My father barked, Don't you dare threaten us in our daughter's home. Mark said, cold as ice, It's my home too, and you weren't invited. I heard rustling, footsteps, my mother saying, Natalie would never allow this. I spoke into the phone loudly. Natalie is allowing it. Silence. Then my mother came on the line, breathless with outrage. You would call the police on your own mother? You broke into my apartment. I used a key I didn't give you. You are being hysterical. No, Mom. I'm being clear. There was a beat. Then she lowered her voice into the tone she used in public when she wanted to sound wounded. We came because we are worried about you. You've become cruel. Your sister had the worst day of her life, and you ran off to chase money. I laughed once. I couldn't help it. The worst day of her life? She abandoned her children. She needed air. She drove away and left a 4-year-old with 2 7-year-olds. She came back. No, she went to my apartment. My mother inhaled like I'd said something vulgar. I heard my father in the background. Hang up? We're leaving. Good. Then Lila's voice came through, thin and sharp. You ruined everything. Something inside me went still. For hours, I had carried guilt for those kids crying on the porch. I had imagined Ava's little face blotchy with tears, Milo clutching a toy, Aiden trying to be brave because someone had to be, and here was their mother, not asking about them, not apologizing, not even pretending. You left your kids alone, I said. Lila snapped, because nobody helped me. I was on a plane. You should have canceled. I had an interview. You always have some excuse. That actually stunned me. For a moment I saw every favor I had done for her, stacked like invisible furniture in a room only I remembered. The nights, the money, the school runs, the emergency grocery trips, the can you just texts that became whole weekends. My excuse, I said slowly, is that I have my own life. Lila made a bitter sound. Must be nice. No, it's not nice. It's overdue. Mark said from nearby, they're leaving. My mother grabbed the phone again. You have humiliated us. You did that yourself. If police show up and neighbors see, then maybe don't enter homes you don't live in. Her voice hardened. You listen to me. Families don't do this. You're right, I said. They don't. Then I ended the call. My whole body shook afterward. Not dainty trembling. Full body aftermath, like my bones had been ringing and someone finally muted them. I sat on a low concrete planter outside the building and bent forward, breathing through my nose. My phone buzzed. Elaine Porter from Horizon. For one wild second, I thought I had accidentally missed something from the interview. I answered with my professional voice, though my hand was damp. Hello? This is Natalie. Natalie, hi. It's Elaine. Do you have a moment? Yes, of course. I know we said you'd hear from us next week, but the team was very impressed. We'd like to move quickly. Are you available for a final call with our VP tomorrow morning? I looked up at the gray Chicago sky. Tomorrow. Yes, I said, absolutely. Wonderful. And Natalie? Yes? You handled yourself very well today. We put candidates under pressure intentionally in that panel. You stayed composed. I nearly laughed again, but this time it almost turned into tears. Thank you, I said. I appreciate that. After we hung up, I called Mark back. The police came, he said before I could speak. What happened? They were in the hallway when officers arrived. Your mom tried to say it was a misunderstanding. And? I told them they had an unauthorized key and entered without permission. Your dad got red-faced. Lila called me abusive. Of course she did. The officers told them to leave and give me the key. Did they? Your mom acted offended but handed it over. I'm still changing the locks tonight. Good. Mark paused. Nat, there's more. My stomach clenched. What? When your dad was asking about documents, I checked the desk after they left. The folder with our lease, car title copy, and your birth certificate was pulled out. My mouth went dry. Why? I don't know. But your birth certificate sleeve was open. The sidewalk seemed to tilt. My parents had always treated information like ownership. They knew my social security number because they filled out my first college forms. They knew my old bank, my security questions, my childhood pet names, every address I'd ever lived at. Check our credit, I said. Already doing it. I loved him so much in that moment it hurt. I'll get the locks changed, he continued. Then I'm taking pictures of everything. And Nat? Yeah? Your mom left something on the coffee table. What? A note. Of course she did. What does it say? He hesitated. You don't need to read it right now. Mark. He sighed, then read, Natalie, when you are done punishing us, remember who raised you. Remember who paid for your braces, who sat beside your hospital bed when you had pneumonia, who gave you life. A daughter who turns strangers against her family will one day find herself with no family at all. I closed my eyes. There it was. The invoice. My childhood, itemized and weaponized. I had never denied that my parents had done things for me. Food, school supplies, doctor visits, the basic duties of raising a child. But in my mother's hands, every act of care became a debt with compounding interest. I asked, "Is there more?" "Yes." He sounded angrier now. "It says, if you continue refusing to help Lila, we will have no choice but to tell people the truth about what kind of person you've become." I opened my eyes. "Good," I said quietly. Mark paused. "Good? Let them tell people." For the first time, the threat sounded less like danger and more like a door opening. Because if my mother wanted truth, maybe we could finally have some. I saved the neighbor's voicemail to 2 places. Then I screenshotted every message from that morning. My mother assigning me the kids. Dad telling me to put family first. Lila admitting she was alive and taunting me about it. Mark sent photos of the copied key, the note, the pulled-out document folder. By the time I reached my hotel, my phone was full of evidence, and my head was full of old memories clicking into a new shape. It had never been that I was stronger. It was that they had decided I was cheaper to break. That evening, I ordered soup from room service because I hadn't eaten since the airport. I sat on the bed in my interview clothes, watching steam curl from the bowl, unable to move. Then a text came from my cousin Paige. "Paige, hey. Your mom posted something. You need to see it before everyone starts calling." A screenshot followed. My mother's Facebook status. No names, of course. Just enough for everyone to know. Heartbroken today. One daughter suffered a medical crisis and begged for help. Another chose a job interview over 3 terrified children. Please pray for our family. Some people forget where they came from. Under it, 32 comments. Oh, Denise, how awful. Family should always come first. Those poor babies. I hope your daughter realizes jobs come and go, but family is forever. My hands went cold. Then Paige sent another text. "Paige, want me to comment what actually happened?" I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I typed back, "Me. No. Me? I'll do it." I sat in that hotel room with my soup going cold and my mother's Facebook post glowing on my screen like a dare. For 34 years, I had been trained not to answer back in public. Public was where my mother performed. Private was where she punished. If I challenged her in front of people, she would wait until we were alone and say, "Do you know how humiliating that was for me?" And somehow the issue would stop being what she'd done and become my tone, my timing, my disloyalty. But I wasn't alone in her kitchen anymore. I was in a Chicago hotel room, wearing the blazer I had flown across state lines to save my future in, holding proof in my hand. My cousin Paige called. "Before you do anything," she said, "breathe." "I am breathing." "You sound like you're about to commit a felony." "I'm about to commit honesty." Paige went quiet, then said, "Good. It's overdue." That made my throat tighten. Paige was my mother's niece, and even she knew. Everyone knew, really. They just called it Denise being Denise, or Lila needing extra support, because naming it properly would require someone to do something. I opened my mother's post again. More comments had appeared. One from Aunt Marjorie, "Some daughters become strangers when they marry controlling men." I actually laughed. Mark, who had spent our entire relationship gently asking whether I wanted to help instead of assuming I would, was now apparently a cult leader because he believed doors should stay locked. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Then I wrote, "Since this post is clearly about me, I'll clarify. I was at the airport for a final job interview my family knew about in advance. I was told, not asked, to cancel it because Lila had a migraine. I said no. Lila then chose to leave her 3 young children alone. A neighbor found them crying outside and stayed with them until my parents arrived. I have the messages and voicemail. My husband and I are safe, and the kids are safe now. Please do not contact me with guilt based on a false version of events." I read it 3 times. It wasn't cruel. It wasn't dramatic. It was worse. It was clear. I hit comment. For maybe 10 seconds, nothing happened. Then my phone exploded. Paige texted first. "Paige, proud of you." Then Aunt Marjorie deleted her comment. Then my mother called. I didn't answer. She called again. I declined. Then Dad. Decline. Then Lila. Decline. I watched the comment thread turn from sympathy into confusion. Wait, the children were alone? Denise, is that true? Who was with the kids? Why would Lila leave them? Then my mother deleted the entire post. Of course she did. But Paige had already screenshotted it. So had I. 5 minutes later, my mother sent a text so long it arrived in 3 gray bubbles. "Mom, you have destroyed this family for attention. You twisted a private matter into public humiliation. Your sister is inconsolable. Your father is having chest pains. I hope you are proud of yourself. Do not come crying when you need us." I stared at "when you need us." There it was again. The fantasy that they were my safety net. They had never been a net. They had been a hand on my shoulder, pushing me back down every time I tried to climb out. I didn't reply. Instead, I called Mark. He sounded exhausted. "Locks are changed. Thank you. Credit is frozen. Yours and mine." I checked the reports. Nothing new opened. But Nat? I lay back against the hotel pillows. What? I found something in the printer tray. My stomach sank. What something? "A copy of your birth certificate." I sat up. What? It looks like someone made a scan or photocopy. The printer history shows a copy job at 2:17 p.m. When they were there. Yeah. The room seemed to shrink around me. Why would they copy my birth certificate? I don't know. But we both knew every possibility was bad. My parents didn't need my birth certificate to love me. They needed it to prove something, open something, control something, or threaten something. Mark said, "I'm putting it in the evidence folder." Evidence folder. The fact that we had one made me want to scream. "Also," he continued, "Mrs. Alvarez came by." The neighbor? She got my number from Aiden's school emergency card. She said she called child services. I closed my eyes. I should have felt panic. Instead, I felt a grim kind of relief. Someone outside the family had seen enough to name it. What did she say? That she's tired of hearing those kids cry and everyone pretending Lila is just overwhelmed. She said this isn't the first time Lila has stepped out and left Aiden in charge. My heart clenched. Not the first time. Aiden, 7 years old, trained into being the adult the same way I had been. The inheritance nobody admits exists. She also said your parents begged her not to call anyone, Mark added. Of course they did. After we hung up, I sat in the quiet for a long time. Then I did something I should have done years ago. I wrote down everything. Not feelings. Facts. Dates I remembered. Times Lila left the kids with me without asking. Money I had sent. Times my parents pressured me to leave work. The morning's texts. The unauthorized apartment entry. The copied key. The document folder. The birth certificate copy. The Facebook post. It came out of me like opening a cabinet that had been stuffed too full for years. Once one thing fell out, everything followed. At 9:30 p.m., Paige called again. "Family group chat is on fire," she said. I muted it. "Smart. Your mom is saying you fabricated the neighbor's story. I have the voicemail. Lila is saying you hate her kids." That one hurt. Not because I believed it. Because I pictured the kids someday hearing that and wondering. "I love those kids," I said. "I know. Everyone who pays attention knows." "Does anyone pay attention?" Paige sighed. "More than you think. People were just scared of Denise." A minute later, a message appeared. "Hello, this is Karen Whitlow with County Child Protective Services. I'm calling regarding a report involving Aiden, Ava, and Milo Morgan. Your name was provided as a relative who may have relevant information. Please return my call." I stared at the transcript. Relevant information. My family would call that betrayal. But Aiden had called for help from his mother's phone. Mrs. Alvarez had called for help from next door. Maybe now it was my turn. My final call with Horizon was in 40 minutes. I showered, dressed, pulled my hair back, and looked at myself in the mirror. You can do both, I whispered. You can tell the truth and still build your life. The Horizon call lasted 32 minutes. Elaine was there, plus the VP, a calm man named Russell, who asked direct questions about leadership, conflict, and whether I was prepared to relocate if needed. Yes, I said, surprising myself with how certain I sounded. At the end, Elaine smiled. Natalie, we'd like to extend an offer. For a moment, I couldn't speak. The salary was real. The benefits were real. The relocation stipend was real. I muted myself just long enough to press both hands over my mouth and sob silently once. Then I unmuted and said professionally, I'm very grateful. I'd like to review the written offer, but I'm excited. After the call, I sat perfectly still. Then I called Mark. We got it, I said. He was quiet. Then he cried. Not loudly. Just one broken breath, then another. We got it? He asked. We got it. For 10 minutes we let ourselves be happy. Then reality returned in the form of my father. Dad, if CPS contacts you, remember that blood is blood. Do not exaggerate. A second text followed. Dad, your sister could lose her children because of you. I looked at those words, and something old inside me finally burned clean through. Not because they were new, because they were the same. Every disaster, every consequence, every collapse was somehow mine if I refused to cushion the fall. My phone rang. Karen Whitlow, CPS. This time, I answered. She was calm and methodical. She asked what I knew firsthand and what I had been told. I stuck to facts. I told her about the texts assigning me childcare, my flight, my mother's message, Mark's account, Mrs. Alvarez's voicemail, and Lila's texts afterward. I offered screenshots. Karen asked, Has Ms. Morgan left the children unsupervised before, to your knowledge? I thought of every uneasy moment I had brushed aside. Every time Aiden seemed too responsible. Every time Ava said, Mommy was sleeping so Aiden made cereal. Yes, I said quietly, I believe she has. Karen thanked me. Before we hung up, she said, I know these calls can be difficult when family pressure is involved. My eyes stung. You have no idea. Actually, she said gently, I hear it every day. After the call, I sent the screenshots. Then I texted my father back. Me, I told the truth. Lila's choices caused this, not mine. He didn't respond. My mother did. Mom, you are dead to me. I stared at it. For years, that sentence would have shattered me. Now, all I felt was exhausted. I took a screenshot, saved it, and put the phone down. My flight home was that afternoon. I should have felt dread, but instead I felt something stranger. Preparation. Because when I landed, I knew they would be waiting in one form or another. I just didn't know yet that Lila had gone to our landlord. When I landed back home, Mark was waiting outside Arrivals with the car idling, and his jaw set in a way I recognized. What happened? I asked before I even buckled my seatbelt. He handed me his phone. A message from our landlord, Mr. Keene. Mr. Keene, Mark, I received a concerning call from a woman named Lila Morgan, claiming Natalie has moved out and there may be domestic instability in the unit. Please confirm status immediately. I read it twice. Then I looked at Mark. Domestic instability? She told him I was controlling you. That you were in Chicago trying to escape me, but I might have access to your documents. I barked out a laugh that had no humor in it. My family broke into our apartment and copied my birth certificate, and somehow you're the threat? Mr. Keene didn't believe her, Mark said, but he said she sounded convincing enough that he needed to document it. That was Lila's gift. She could cry in complete sentences. She knew how to sound wounded, helpless, believable. I had watched her do it with teachers, boyfriends, bosses, our parents. Now she was doing it to my landlord. To what end? I asked. Get us evicted? Maybe scare us. Maybe make me look unsafe. Maybe make you run back to them. I leaned my head against the seat. Outside, cars crawled past the pickup lane. People hugged. Suitcases rolled. Lives continued. Mark took my hand. Mr. Keene said if they come onto the property, he'll trespass them. I turned to him. He said that? He also said your mother called him after Lila did. Of course she did. She asked whether she could be added as an emergency contact since you were not thinking clearly. A cold calm spread through me. That was why they'd wanted documents. Not one dramatic reason. 100 small ones. To insert themselves. To create doubt. To make themselves official where they had no right to be. Not because I wanted revenge. Because I had finally accepted that people who weaponize family will weaponize anything you leave unprotected. The lawyer, Ms. Patel, was brisk and kind. She told me to stop taking calls, preserve all communication, and send one written boundary. So I did. To my mother, father, and Lila, I sent the same text. Do not come to my home, workplace, or contact my landlord. Do not use or copy my personal documents. All communication must be in writing. If you continue harassing us or entering our property, we will pursue legal action. My mother replied within 3 minutes. Mom, legal action against your parents. You are sick. Dad, this is not who we raised. Lila, enjoy your new family since you threw mine away. I didn't answer. That was the first victory. Not the job. Not the locks. Not the police report. The silence. CPS contacted me twice more. I gave facts, not opinions. Mrs. Alvarez gave her statement too. For once, my parents couldn't contain the story inside the family and smother it with guilt. Lila did not lose her children. That's important. What happened was less dramatic and more useful. She was required to complete a safety plan. My parents could not simply hand-wave everything as a migraine. Lila had to arrange actual childcare. Aiden's school was notified that he was not to be treated as a backup adult. Counseling was recommended. My mother called this state interference. I called it the first time adults besides me had been made responsible. A week later, Horizon's written offer came through. I accepted. When I clicked the button, Mark opened a bottle of cheap sparkling cider because champagne was still not in the budget. We drank it from mismatched mugs in our kitchen, surrounded by moving boxes we had started collecting from the grocery store. To oxygen, he said. I cried then. Not because everything was fixed. It wasn't. My parents were still furious. Lila was still telling anyone who would listen that I had reported her out of jealousy. Aunt Marjorie eventually sent me a message saying, "Your mother is devastated." And I replied, "So are the children," which ended that conversation. But for the first time, their anger was not steering my life. 2 months later, Mark and I moved to Chicago. The relocation stipend covered the truck, deposits, and just enough breathing room that I stopped checking our bank balance every morning with my heart in my throat. Mark found work with a contractor outside the city. I started at Horizon on a Monday wearing the same black blazer, thread repaired at the cuff. Elaine stopped by my desk that afternoon and asked, "Settling in?" I looked at my new badge, my new computer, my new calendar full of things that belonged to me. "Yes," I said. "I think I am. The kids were the hardest part. I missed them. I still miss them." Aiden called me once from my mother's phone about 3 weeks after we moved. His voice was small. "Aunt Nat, are you mad at us?" I had to sit down. "No, sweetheart," I said. "Never. I love you three so much. Grandma said you're busy with your big job." I closed my eyes. "I am busy," I said carefully, "but that doesn't mean I stopped loving you. Mom cried when your name came up. I'm sorry you had to see that." He was quiet for a moment, then whispered, "I didn't like being in charge." There it was. The sentence that broke me. "You should never have been in charge," I said. That was not your job. He sniffed. Okay. Aiden, listen to me. If you are ever scared, you call a safe adult. Mrs. Alvarez, your teacher. 911, if you need to, even if someone says not to. Will people be mad? Maybe, I said, because I would not teach him lies. But being safe matters more than people being mad. After we hung up, I sobbed so hard Mark came running from the other room. That call reminded me why boundaries hurt. Because they don't only keep people out. Sometimes they reveal who is still trapped inside. I couldn't rescue those kids by sacrificing my entire life. I had tried variations of that for years, and all it had done was teach the family that I was the plan. The real help came when people outside the pattern got involved, when truth entered the room, when consequences stopped being redirected onto me. My mother and I have not spoken in 6 months. She sends occasional emails. Subject lines like, "Your father's health," or "Last chance." I save them in a folder and do not respond unless there is genuine information requiring a reply. My father mailed a birthday card with only one sentence inside. Family is still family. I put it in the evidence folder, not because I hate them, because I remember Lila blocked me, unblocked me, sent a paragraph about betrayal, then blocked me again. Paige keeps me updated just enough to know the kids are safe. Mrs. Alvarez still watches from next door like an avenging angel with flowered curtains. And me? I work. I come home. I pay bills on time. Mark and I buy groceries without choosing which card has room. Some nights we walk by the lake and talk about things that have nothing to do with crisis. It feels almost suspicious. Peace. Like, I'm getting away with something. But I'm learning that peace is not betrayal. A job interview was never more important than 3 children. That's what my family wanted people to think. The truth is, one woman's job interview was made the test of whether an entire family could continue avoiding responsibility. I got on the plane. Lila made her choice. My parents made theirs,